What's happening, YouTube? Caliber here. We're here to do another Epic 7 video, guys. And guys, this is one of my favorite Epic 7 videos to do. This is balance adjustments, and there's some hot balance adjustments in there. So let's hop right in here because I'm kind of excited. I hope I'm excited. We'll see if I'm excited. I have to see this in testing. All right, so this is gonna be a hot mess all over the place, guys, but I'm gonna point out the things that you need to know. First of all, when this is gonna occur is 6/11, guys. 6/11 right here on a Thursday. Yeah, so that's what they're gonna be doing. Balance adjustment targets right here. This is the whole list of balance adjustments. You can pause it, look over it if you want. We're just gonna go ahead and move on with this. Ambitious Tywin right here, guys. So before, whenever he got hit, he had a chance to dispel 1 debuff from all allies. Now it's whenever any ally is hit, activated once per turn, dispel 1 debuff. Super strong. Absolutely love that ability. Definitely changing Ambitious Tywin quite a bit there. That's a good buff right there. And then you got Flash, awakened after. So attacks all enemies with an instant sword storm with a 80% chance max to increase chance each to stun for 1 turn and decrease speed for 2 turns. So before it was make them unhillable for 2 turns, decrease speed. You didn't get the stun in there, so you can get an extra sexy stun in there with Ambitious Tywin. That is looking really solid for him. Charlotte is back into the rework, guys. Charlotte rework, huh? It made her better. So I was one of the very there's quite a few people. I think there was more people than they actually thought that were using Charlotte for PvE reasons, and I was one of them, and I know a few other people. So they reworked her, and then Charlotte got perma-benched by everybody. At least I think I benched her. So we got dual swords here. They changed it. Her S1 always triggers a critical hit when it hits. So this is interesting right here. You don't have to build Charlotte with crit period anymore. She is 100%. She's gonna crit all the time. This is interesting. This is very interesting. I'm not sure what I think about this. I will be giving Charlotte another run though. So Vortex cuts all enemies while spinning, making them unhillable for 2 turns. Successful attacks always result in a critical hit. This was a 75% chance to make them unhillable, so this is always make them unhillable. Yeah, so basically always unhillable and always trigger a critical hit. It's getting, I don't know, man. I think this is gonna be good. I think I'm gonna be able to build a more, like they're saying right here, a more aggressive build for Charlotte might be an option. Let's hop into Destina here, guys. Destina here has a 30% chance to reset cooldown and regen when using regen. Holy crap, really? So exclusive equipment option 2, increase the caster's combat readiness by 20%. Instead of increasing it by 20% when using regen, has a 30% chance to reset the cooldown of regen. That's interesting. Regen, bless an ally recovering health, increasing their combat readiness by 50%. It was 30%. Healing increased proportional caster's max health. These are, I mean, Destina could definitely use those. Yeah. Yeah, game on. All right, next person. Let's look at Lilibet here. So it looks like here, Lilibet slashes the enemy with chill ball. Blah blah blah. Hit chance is increased by 20% when using the skill. So Soul Cutter before and after. I don't know which ability Soul Cutter is. I think it's her S3. But negates damage once the next skill attack. Hit chance is increased by 20% when using this skill. Okay, so they've removed the option 3 of her exclusive equipment, increasing the hit chance by 20% when using Soul Cutter to increase damage dealt by 10%. So pretty much anybody who was using Lilibet before was already using option 3, the exclusive equipment. They're using the 20% hit chance for the RBs, all those deadly evasion units. They're just gonna go ahead and give you evasion on your, you don't even have to have it anymore. It's on her permanently, and increase the damage dealt by 10%. That means more options for Lilibet builds. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but she has permanent hit chance on her. Nice. For her S3. Tempest Surin. So this one's interesting here. When the caster's health is 70% or less, so does this say 70% or less when the enemy's turn ends? Dispel all debuffs from the caster and grant stealth for 1 turn before increasing combat readiness of the caster by 20% to a max 30%. It can only be activated once per turn. So it looks like they gave you more combat readiness on the back end or on the front end of her ability. So your enhancements aren't going to go as far. They're still going to get her up to 30%, but she used to start at 15. Now she's at 20. She dispels all debuffs, which is interesting, from the caster, and grants stealth for 1 turn. I mean, you can't really argue that with that damage. Yeah, you can't argue that with the damage. That's going to make her hard to be double tapped. There might be some uses for her after this. Attacks all enemies with a 60% to 85% chance to make them unhealable and unbuffed for 2 turns, inflicting silence for 1 turn. So that's kind of cool. Inflict silence for 1 turn. Can't go wrong there. Damage dealt increase proportional to the mass amount to caster's lost health. 4 turns, lowest 3-turn cooldown. That's... I don't have Tempest Surin. I've never messed with her, and I've seen very, very few videos of her. And I've heard very little about her. I mean, this has to be a good thing. I just don't know how good of a thing it is. Right here, the swift movement, that's pretty cool. The dispel and the chance to go stealth for 1 turn, that's an interesting ability there. All right, so let's move on to Crescent Moon Rin, man. Attacks the enemy with a lavish dance, inflicting a stun for 1 turn before stealing 2 buffs. What, huh? Inflict the stun before you steal 2 buffs. Okay. And grant their effects to all allies. So if the enemy's not buffed, the cooldown for the skill's reduced by 1 turn. So my biggest issue is they steal 2 buffs, which is probably immunity, and then stun, but you stun for 1 turn. So you can't stun if they're immune and then steal the 2 buffs, if I'm reading that correctly. I'm hoping that's a typo on that. I'm hoping it's the other way around. But yeah, she has a stun now. This might, you know, maybe Crescent Moon Rin and Spez. Maybe something's happening there, man. We got Shooting Star Achates here. Dispels all debuffs from both caster and target. Between the caster and target, heal the allies. So she got a dispel all debuffs from both the caster and target. That's kind of cool, man. That's not bad. You can't go wrong with a little extra dispellage, especially with as many debuffs that are flying around these days. Can't go wrong with that. That's an improvement on Shooting Star Achates. People use her, so yeah, I mean, it's just gonna up it a little bit more. We got a bunch of AI improvements. So this is the churn order and stuff like this. So before, Spez was target bosses. Now targets that do not have invincibility buff. They went with Krau with targets that do not have invincibility buff. A lot of people are cheesing these characters, so they throw an invincibility buff up. And then Krau comes in and mows them down, man. Mows them down. So they're throwing an invincibility buff up there. Assassin Cidd would target bosses. Targets the highest combat readiness gauge. So that's interesting. They changed them to the highest combat readiness gauge. Okay. Targets that do not have invincibility buff. Fair. Bosses. Targets that have an elemental disadvantage. Targets the highest combat readiness gauge. So this is going to be interesting because Assassin Cidd used to be able to bait him by elemental disadvantage, and it looks like that's changing right now. Assassin Cidd's going to be a wild card. There's not going to be an elemental disadvantage. He can attack anybody that has the highest combat gauge. Keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. If you have an Assassin Cidd and you're using them on defense, he's now a wild card. He's all over the place. Wanderer Silk here. If I'm understanding that correctly, targets with the highest combat readiness gauge. Same thing with her. I think they're playing around with something different here. Highest combat readiness gauge, huh? Pavel looks like use storm bullet if is available. Storm bullet is used first. Okay, so use first unconditionally. Okay, so he uses that first. Okay. Destina here uses used when an ally is inflicted with the debuff. So you got her Destina's Grace when all allies above 60% health. All right, Achates here. This is so this uses when the ally has a debuff. She actually had a horrible AI, Destina did, because people would be debuffed and she wouldn't heal because they weren't damaged enough. Achates used when allies inflicted the debuff. I guess she had the same issue because it was 60% health or below. Both Destina and Achates have skills that restore health. Yeah, we read that. Says, yeah, it says here, when the target's health is 50% or less, there's a 100% chance for the skill to be used. 30% or less, there's 80% chance. Well, it looks like he can do Says Bomb on his own now. That's kind of cool. Celeste, when used when the caster's health less than 80%, it was 70%. Batisse, targets with decreased attack debuff got buffed up to target to number 3, so his AI is probably a little bit better. Search of Victory AI, targets with decreased attack debuff, same thing. They threw a little bit of stuff in there. Fighter Maya, she has a 30% chance of when the target's 30% or less, has a 100% chance to attack it. So the AI was 80% chance before, so that's kind of cool. Exclusive equipment, like we've seen, the exclusive equipment can just changed on region here to something else. And that is going to wrap these balance changes up, guys. Super excited. So I'll go over the list real quick and tell you what I think is good and what I think isn't. So I think the Ambitious Tywin one was a very good buff. The Charlotte buff, I think that's gonna be a good buff. The fact that you don't have to spend any resources for crit on her, and you can go all crit damage, attack, health, and defense. I mean, that's pretty solid right there. Destina, I mean, you can't go wrong with that buff. It's an improvement, Lilibet, improvement, Tempest, Surin, and improvement. Crescent Moon Rin. Dang it. I'm really hoping that was a typo on hers because she still seems unusable. Shooting Star Achates, I mean, if you're using her, a little bit of a buffage, nothing wrong with that. Specimen, Spez, and all these AI improvements. AI improvements are kind of whatever. That Krau one's going to catch people off guard because people are used to casting invincibility and letting Krau mow down like a fire tank that's invincible and stuff like that. You won't be able to do that anymore. But yeah, I mean, you will if you AoE the whole team and he goes next, I suppose. But yeah, I think these are some interesting changes. I'm excited for Charlotte most. Charlotte's going to be cool. Destina is my next excited one. And Ambitious Tywin, if I had him, I'd be super excited for that one. So yeah, that's going to wrap up these patch notes, guys. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications, all that good stuff. Yeah, Caliber here, bringing you the balance changes and letting you know what his opinion is. Glad to have you guys here. You guys are amazing. You guys have a great day. Thank you guys for watching this whole video. Leave a comment. Say poggers in the comments, guys.